Enjoying it. I was out again yesterday afternoon. People seem to be having a great time out in the sun, wearing very little, wearing shorts, wearing T-shirts. What's the way of things? It's the summer. Just enjoy it. I'll tell you who's not enjoying it terribly well at the moment is Donald Trump, the former president of the United States of America. We told you yesterday, reported that the FBI had raided his home in Mar-a-Lago in Florida, looking apparently for a series of documents that they accuse him of removing from the White House. This would be violating the Presidential Records Act if he hasn't given them back. We're going to talk to Amber Athey very shortly, Washington editor of the US Spectator, the American Spectator. But before we do that, let's have a look at Biden's press secretary saying that he was not actually told about the raid.
No. The president was not briefed, was not aware of it. No one at the White House was given a heads up. No, that did not happen. The Justice Department conducts investigations independently, and we leave any law enforcement matters to them. It would not be appropriate for us to comment on any ongoing investigations. I can say that President Biden has been unequivocal since the campaign. He believes in the rule of law, in the independence of the Justice Department investigations, that those investigations should be free from political influence, and he has held that commitment as president.
Well, yesterday, Donald Trump's supporters said, well, this is an exact example of what is not political independence from the FBI. And in fact, Amy Horowitz, a commentator, a conservative commentator, told us there's no way this would have happened without Joe Biden's say-so, that he must have known as the president that this raid was going to take place. Now, have a look at this if you want to talk about how unequivocal the current president of the United States actually is. This is Joe Biden attempting to put his jacket on, having come off Marine One, which is the helicopter, of course, which ferries him around when he's trying to get from one place to another. You can see him standing with his wife, Jill. He's got one arm in the jacket. He's going to try and put the other arm in, but he can't seem to quite make it, and then walks towards Jill. Jill, as she starts to put the jacket on his other arm, his glasses start to slip off towards the edge of his nose. Now, I'm giving you a running commentary here because we don't have sound on the actual video, but as he now puts the jacket around his shoulders, he tucks it around over the back of his neck. His glasses fall off, and there he goes. He has to pick them up off the ground. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just, you know, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying this is a guy who can't put his own jacket on, and he's running the United States of America, and thereby the free world. Let us talk to Amber Athey, Washington editor of Spectator USA. Amber, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. I mean, I don't wish to be cruel, but when you watch the President of the United States struggling to put his own jacket on, you might expect, I suppose, that maybe nobody told him about the Trump raid because they didn't want to bother him.
Yeah, it's highly possible. There was another incident during a speech, I believe it was yesterday, where he was repeatedly coughing into his hands after just recovering from COVID, and then went on to shake everyone's hands. He actually forgot that he had shaken the hand of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer approximately 5 seconds after it happened, which was very bizarre. And regarding your point about whether or not he was aware of this raid before it happened, it's really hard to know. We can't take Karine Jean-Pierre at her word because Biden has had issues in the past of not remembering being informed about things related to the DOJ. He was told during the Obama administration that they were likely going to investigate Michael Flynn, who was a Trump campaign advisor at the time. And Biden later said that that never happened, that he wasn't aware that that investigation was happening. And he's also pressured the DOJ before, telling them to prosecute people related to the January 6th investigation if they refuse to cooperate with the committee. So this is a guy who clearly doesn't have a problem putting his finger on the scale. The question is whether he even remembers doing so.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we spoke to Amy Horowitz yesterday, and he said, no way does this thing happen with the FBI because it's a major investigation. It's a major event to raid the home of a former president, which, as far as I understand, has never been done before, without somehow at least not perhaps asking for permission to do it from Joe Biden, but just informing him that they're doing it.
It seems incredibly unlikely that Biden would not be given a heads up about this because this is such an escalation and provocation against a political opponent. And the idea that the Biden administration would not be aware of this is just beyond reason. And we know at the very least that this went up to the highest levels of the DOJ. at least to Attorney General Merrick Garland, the idea that it didn't go to Biden as well, I think is ludicrous.
Right. And the actual substance of this, according to a piece that you wrote in the Spectator USA, is this is about a quibble about documents, as we understand it, right?
That's correct. So far, all reporting points to the fact that this is over former President Donald Trump taking about 15 boxes of materials with him when he left the White House. The Presidential Records Act says technically you're not allowed to do that. Trump's team claims that he actually declassified those documents before leaving office. The president has widespread power over what documents retain those classification markings, so it's highly possible that that occurred. We don't know yet. But the National Archives demanded those 15 boxes back. The Trump team was actually working with them to make sure all of the materials were returned, and in turn working with federal agents. But the National Archives continued to refer this case to the DOJ, and that's actually how they got involved. So there was a meeting back in the spring where Trump lawyers were sitting down with these federal agents and talking about the documents and showing them what they had left in their possession. And so as Trump said in his statement about the raid, this was something that caught him completely off guard because by all means they were cooperating. And in the past, when these types of disputes over documents or things that had been taken from the White House occurred, typically there was a way to remediate the issue and it was considered a misunderstanding. So this seems like a really unnecessary escalation.
Yeah, absolutely right. And in your piece you say that, you know, the Clintons were never raided, and the suspicion is from those who support Donald Trump that this is all about trying to stop him in some way from running for president again.
It seems that way. One of the punishments for violating the Presidential Records Act is that the individual would be barred from running for public office again. Now, there's a question as to whether that would be even constitutionally legal, because the Constitution would outweigh any piece of legislation passed by Congress placing limits on who can run for president or any other political office. But that being said, another aspect of this that's really important is that if the FBI goes in and they start looking for these documents and they stumble across anything else that they think could be used to charge the former president with a crime, they're allowed to use that. This is the type of search warrant where anything they stumble upon could be taken back with them. So at the very least, it seems like a fishing expedition that they're possibly using to try to get the president on something else, because it seems unlikely to me that this is just about the documents.
And have the FBI said anything at all as to what they retrieved, if anything, from the Mar-a-Lago estate?
The FBI has been dead silent, which is very concerning. People want to know what the actual story is that led up to this search warrant. They want to know what the FBI recovered, what it is exactly that they were looking for, because this is such a special case. And unfortunately, the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, left a press conference early on Friday that he was having with Republicans to go on vacation. So he apparently knew that this raid was coming on Monday and yet couldn't even stay an extra 20 minutes to answer questions in a hearing.
It is extraordinary, because you'd think if they were looking for a particular batch of documents, they would say whether or not they found them, wouldn't they?
You would think so. And it's really not even clear what exactly they were looking for. The former president said that they actually went into his personal safe, which didn't even have anything in it. And the president's son, Eric Trump, again pointed out that this was something that they were cooperating with federal agents on. So the idea that they would come barging in and demand these items that had either already been promised to them or they were already talking about, they could be declassified, we don't even know. It's just bizarre.
Right, it really is. And presumably for those who do support Trump and who have, many of them have been demonstrating outside of Mar-a-Lago and other places as well against the FBI, this will just make their resolve stronger to vote him in again, won't it?
100%. And that's what's really mind-blowing, is that if this really is an attempt by the FBI, the DOJ, the Biden administration writ large to try to take out the former president, they have really only proven his point even stronger. His success in 2016 was largely due to the fact that he was considered a political outsider, and he spoke about corruption in some of these storied U.S. institutions. He didn't have that same ability in 2020 because he was running as the current office holder. So if he comes back in 2024 and is able to say, look, they're still terrified of me. They think that I am going to blow up the system again, which I want to do. then this gives him major credibility because of the fact that the FBI has seemingly targeted him with political intimidation.
Right. And presumably the longer the silence goes on, the better it is for Donald Trump.
Definitely. I think that's definitely the case. The FBI has a lot of explaining to do. I think the Biden administration has a lot of explaining to do. And, you know, you pointed out the double standard earlier. The Clintons, when they left the White House after Bill Clinton's presidency, took with them almost $200,000 in furniture and gifts that were intended to remain at the White House. And they ended up actually not even returning all of it. They paid back about $80,000 of the furniture's value and then returned an additional $28,000, which I'm sure you could do the math, doesn't quite add up to the $200,000. And yet that was brushed away as a mistake, as an error, and not intentional. So there's precedent for this. We've seen how the investigative bodies of the U.S. government have treated these situations before, and that's why this particular decision to go in and raid the former president's home is so stunning.
It really is extraordinary. Great to talk to you, Amber. Thank you very much indeed. Amber Rathie there, Washington editor of the Spectator USA. We're here with Jess Gill. Jess, extraordinary, isn't it, to see America's kind of political system almost stripped bare. It's, you know, we haven't got a lot of time to talk about it, but it's an amazing situation that the FBI could just raid a former president's home without explaining why, without explaining what they got.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was 13 when Trump first got elected, and he was depicted as this big bad wolf, and the Trump presidency came, and he was okay. He was a good president, I think, but it wasn't as terrifying as the media depicted it as. And then Biden comes along. Look at what's happened. We're in a recession. They're in a recession. All these issues coming about. And it makes you think, like, who really is the bad guy in this situation? Why is Trump's place getting raided?
I know. It makes absolutely no sense.